All right, strap in, everybody, because today we are taking a deep dive into self-fulfilling prophecies.
Oh, self-fulfilling prophecies.
You know that like spooky idea that like if you believe in something, it can actually come true?
Yeah.
And it can go both ways,
Absolutely.
good or bad.
Yeah.
And we have got some fascinating snippets from this article called Pasted Text that really dig into this. Have you ever like bombed a presentation
Oh, yeah.
because you were convinced that you were going to like totally just, remove it?
Absolutely. It's like you're almost setting yourself up for failure by thinking about it too much. Yeah.
Or the opposite.
Yeah.
Have you ever aced a test?
Yeah.
Because you were just like, oh, I know I'm going to nail this.
You just had that feeling.
You just had that feeling.
Yeah. I've definitely had that where I was like, I don't even need to study for this. I got this.
Yeah. That's the kind of thing we're talking about today.
I mean, it's fascinating because it goes way beyond just those personal anecdotes, you know?
Yeah.
We can see self-fulfilling prophecies play out.
Yeah.
On a grand scale. We're talking economies, societies, entire historical periods.
Wow.
It really all boils down to how our beliefs, expectations, and fears can nudge us towards actions that make those beliefs a reality.
Okay. So it's like our minds are kind of shaping the world around us a little bit.
Yeah.
It's giving me Matrix vibes.
It's a little bit like the Matrix. Yeah, for sure.
But where did this whole idea even come from? It seems kind of mystical, almost magical.
So the term self-fulfilling prophecy itself comes from the sociologist Robert K. Merton.
Okay.
But the concept has been around for centuries.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Even Edward Gibbon back in the 1700s
Okay.
wrote about predictions contributing to their own accomplishment. In his book, The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire.
Wow. So this has been around for a while.
Yeah, but to really understand the mechanics of it, we have to go back to the Thomas theorem.
The Thomas theorem, sounds very official and intimidating.
Yeah, it sounds very academic and stuffy, but it's actually simpler than it sounds.
Okay, good.
So the Thomas theorem states that if men define situations as real, they are real in their consequences.
I see.
Basically, our perception of a situation dictates how we act, and those actions then create the outcome.
Okay.
Regardless of whether our initial perception was accurate or not.
So even if something isn't objectively true, just believing it can make it true.
Yeah.
That's kind of unsettling.
It is a little bit mind-bending.
It is.
Yeah, and it does kind of raise some questions about free will and all that.
Yeah, for sure.
But Merton took this idea and specifically labeled it the self-fulfilling prophecy.
Okay.
He argued that these beliefs, whether true or false, kickstart this chain reaction that ultimately confirms them.
So they become true.
They become true because of our actions based on those beliefs.
This is already making me question like everything.
Right.
But let's get concrete.
Sure.
How did Merton illustrate this in real life?
Yeah, so he used a really classic example.
Okay.
The example of a bank run.
Ooh, a bank run.
Okay. So imagine there's a rumor spreading that a bank is going bankrupt.
Okay.
Even if it's completely untrue, if enough people believe it, they're going to panic and rush to withdraw their money.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Right.
A classic meltdown.
A classic financial meltdown.
Yep.
And that mass withdrawal actually causes the bank to fail.
Wow.
Fulfilling the initial prophecy.
So even though it was based on nothing.
Even though it was based on literally nothing.
It's just fear.
Just fear and rumor.
That's wild.
It really shows you the power of belief.
That's a pretty stark example of how beliefs can shape reality. But how does this work on a more like individual level? Like, not all of us are dealing with bank runs every day, thankfully.
That's where the Pygmalion Effect comes in.
The Pygmalion Effect.
Yeah, which is basically the self-fulfilling prophecy applied to personal expectations.
Okay, I think I've heard of this.
Yeah.
Isn't it the experiment where teachers were told that certain students were gifted?
You got it.
And then those kids ended up performing better?
Exactly. Yeah, it was studied by Rosenthal and Jacobson.
Okay.
And the gifted students were actually chosen randomly.
Oh, wow.
There was no actual difference in their abilities at the start.
Okay.
But the teachers, believing these kids were destined for greatness, unconsciously started treating them differently.
Really?
They gave them more attention, challenged them more, offered more encouragement.
Wow. So it wasn't like some mystical mind power thing.
Right.
It was the teacher's actions.
Right.
Driven by their expectations.
Exactly.
That actually created the outcome.
Yeah, it was the way they were treated.
That's fascinating.
That led to their success.
So the gifted students thrived simply because they were believed in.
Right.
That's really powerful.
It's a powerful reminder that our expectations
Yeah.
can really shape someone else's reality.
It really makes you rethink your whole school experience.
Isn't it?
Like, were my teachers' beliefs about me
Yeah,
shaping how I performed?
right.
I wonder if they even realized the power that they held.
That's a great question.
And it goes way beyond the classroom, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like this happens in families.
Families, workplace,
Workplaces, friendships.
any type of relationship, really.
So in a way, we're kind of all constantly shaping each other's realities based on what we believe.
Yeah, in a way, we are all connected.
That's kind of fascinating.
It is pretty fascinating.
And a little terrifying.
And a little bit scary, too, yeah.
But I guess before we spiral into an existential crisis,
Right.
let's look at some more specific examples of how this plays out in the real world.
Yeah, let's ground this a little bit.
Yeah.
With some real-world examples.
Right.
Absolutely. We can see it in, like, everything from health to finance
Uh-huh.
to how entire social groups are perceived. It's really a lens through which we can understand so much of human behavior.
Okay, so hit me with some of those real-world examples.
Okay, let's start with something relatable.
Okay.
Fear of falling, which is super common among older adults.
Yeah.
Studies show that this fear can actually increase
Leslie-
their risk of falling.
Wait, how does that even work?
Yeah, that seems counterintuitive, right?
It does.
But it's not that simple.
Yeah.
So the constant anxiety
Okay.
can make them, move more tentatively,
Right.
limit their activity,
Okay.
lose confidence in their balance.
I see.
And then those behaviors actually make them more susceptible to falls.
Oh, wow.
So it's like their fear is creating
Oh, yeah.
the very outcome they're trying to avoid.
Wow. That's like a perfect example of this whole thing.
It is.
It's like our brains are playing tricks on us.
It's like a self-sabotage almost.
Yeah. Are there other examples like this?
Yeah.
Where like our fears can actually manifest into reality?
There's a fascinating example from East Asian cultures
Okay.
regarding the number 4.
Okay, the number 4.
So it's often associated with death and bad luck.
Oh, like how we see 13.
Exactly like how we see 13
Yeah.
in some Western cultures.
Yeah, I've heard of that, like people avoiding the 13th floor in hotels.
Oh, yeah, totally.
But surely a number can't actually influence someone's health, right?
Right. Well, it's not quite that straightforward.
Okay.
But studies have shown a statistically significant
Okay.
increase in heart attack deaths
Hmm.
among people of East Asian descent on the 4th day of the month.
Really?
Yeah, so it's not like a simple cause and effect,
Yeah.
but it suggests that those really deeply ingrained cultural beliefs,
Yeah.
especially those tied to fear and negativity,
Okay.
can have a real impact, even physically.
Wow, that's both fascinating and a little creepy.
It is a little bit creepy, yeah.
Like our minds have so much more power
Right.
than we realize.
Yeah, way more than we think.
But let's zoom out a bit. We talked about bank runs earlier.
Uh-huh.
How else do these prophecies play out in the world of finance and economics?
Oh, it's everywhere.
Okay.
Think about like stock market trends,
Okay.
investor confidence, whether it's based on solid info or just herd mentality,
Right.
can drive markets up or down.
I've always wondered about those market bubbles. Like, is that really
Yeah,
just a collective self-fulfilling prophecy?
it really can be.
Like everybody gets so hyped up, they believe the prices are going to keep rising, so they keep buying.
Exactly.
And it just fuels the bubble.
It fuels the bubble, and then eventually, of course, the bubble bursts.
It's got to burst at some point.
Yeah, it's a classic example of how collective beliefs,
Yeah.
rational or not, can have real-world consequences.
So basically, our financial systems are at the mercy of like our collective mindset.
It's a little bit scary to think about,
Yeah.
but yeah, essentially, that's what's happening.
That's both empowering and terrifying.
It's a double-edged sword.
But let's shift gears a bit.
Mhm.
How do self-fulfilling prophecies affect social dynamics?
Okay, so this is where it can get pretty heavy.
Yeah.
So let's look at the example of prejudice and social marginalization.
Okay.
So if a society holds these negative stereotypes about a particular group,
Mm-hmm.
it can create this really vicious cycle.
Wings.
So these stereotypes often lead to limited opportunities,
Right.
fewer educational resources,
Uh-huh.
fewer job prospects,
Okay.
less access to healthcare, and
Yeah.
then faced with all these barriers
Yeah.
and constantly being treated as less capable.
Right.
Some individuals from that group
Yeah.
might tragically start to internalize those beliefs and exhibit behaviors that seemingly confirm those stereotypes.
So it's like the prejudice itself
Right.
creates the conditions that make it appear true.
Exactly.
Even though it was based on nothing but bias.
It's just this self-perpetuating cycle.
Yeah. That's a self-fulfilling prophecy with like really devastating consequences.
Yeah, it's a really sad example
It is.
of how this can play out.
Yeah, it really underscores the need to challenge those stereotypes
Absolutely.
and dismantle those systems of oppression.
We got to break the cycle.
We do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But, okay, we've talked about like big systems and groups.
Mm-hmm.
How about on a more personal level?
Sure. Right.
Like relationships.
Yeah, so that's where it can get really personal
Okay.
and sometimes painfully ironic.
Okay.
Think about the fear of rejection.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a thing I think we've all experienced,
Yeah, for sure.
especially in romantic relationships.
Oh, tell me about it. That fear can be paralyzing.
It can be really tough.
But how does this tie back into self-fulfilling prophecies?
So if someone is constantly expecting to be rejected,
Mm-hmm.
they might become overly self-critical,
Okay.
insecure, or even desperate in their interactions.
Oh, I see.
And this can make them appear less confident
Okay.
and less attractive.
Right. To potential partners, ironically,
Yeah.
increasing the chances of rejection.
So our own anxieties and fears
Right.
are actually shaping the outcome that we're dreading.
It's like we're creating our own worst nightmare.
Ouch. That's a tough one.
Yeah, but recognizing the pattern is the first step towards breaking free.
Okay.
So by understanding the power of these prophecies,
Yeah.
we can start to challenge those negative beliefs
Okay.
and replace them with more positive and empowering ones.
So it's all about like reframing our thinking.
It really is all about mindset.
Okay. I'm sensing a major theme here, whether it's markets crashing or prejudice taking root or our love lives imploding.
Right.
It seems like our beliefs and expectations are playing a huge role in how things turn out.
They really are.
But before we go any further, I have to ask about stories.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like self-fulfilling prophecies are a favorite plot device
Absolutely.
for writers and filmmakers.
They're everywhere.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
From ancient myths to modern movies. Let's keep it classic for a moment. Give me a Greek myth example.
Okay, let's go with the most iconic one.
Okay.
Oedipus.
Oedipus, okay.
Remember, he was destined to kill his father and marry his mother?
Oh, yeah, that's a rough one.
Right. So his parents, horrified by the prophecy,
Yeah.
try to prevent it by abandoning him as a baby.
But of course, that's what sets the whole thing in motion.
Right. Their attempt to avoid fate is actually what leads to its fulfillment.
It's like the ultimate irony.
Yeah. Oedipus, unaware of his true parentage,
Right.
eventually encounters his father,
Yeah.
kills him in a rage,
Wow.
and then later unknowingly marries his mother.
So it's a classic illustration of how trying to avoid fate
Yeah.
can sometimes lead us right into it.
It's a powerful story.
Yeah, talk about a tragic self-fulfilling prophecy.
It really is.
Okay, it's Greek myth. Check what about fairy tales?
Oh, fairy tales are full of these.
They're full of prophecies.
Prophecies, curses,
Yeah.
all sorts of stuff.
Okay, give me a good fairy tale example.
Okay, how about Sleeping Beauty?
Sleeping Beauty, okay?
So the king and queen are desperate
Yeah.
to protect their daughter from the evil fairy's curse.
Right.
So they get rid of all the spinning wheels in the kingdom.
Right. But then
But that well-intentioned action.
that's what leads her to pricking her finger
Exactly.
on the spindle.
Yeah, and falling into her enchanted sleep.
So they were trying to avoid this one specific thing,
Right.
but it ended up making it happen anyway.
They created the perfect conditions for it.
It's like that classic fairy tale irony.
Yeah, it really highlights how those well-intentioned actions,
Yeah.
when driven by fear,
Right.
can backfire.
Spectacularly.
Spectacularly, we see this same dynamic in The Devil with the Three Golden Hairs.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, where the king tries to thwart
Yeah.
the prophecy of a young man marrying his daughter
Right.
by sending him on all these impossible quests.
Right. And of course, those quests end up making him a hero.
Exactly.
And then he gets the girl.
It's like they can't escape their destiny.
I'm starting to see a pattern here.
There's definitely a theme in
Yeah.
one of these stories.
Okay, so we've got myth and fairy tales covered. What about Shakespeare?
Oh, Shakespeare loved this stuff.
He did?
He was a master of exploring human nature
Yeah.
and self-fulfilling prophecies.
Right.
They're all over his plays.
Okay, give me an example.
About Macbeth.
Macbeth, okay.
So the witches prophesize that Macbeth is going to be king,
Right.
but those words just ignite his ambition
Yeah.
and his paranoia.
And it leads him down a dark path.
A very dark path. He ends up committing all these horrible acts
Right.
driven by the prophecy itself,
Yeah.
which ultimately lead to his downfall.
So the prophecy itself became like a self-fulfilling curse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Shakespeare is showing us that sometimes the most dangerous prophecies
Yeah.
are the ones we choose to believe.
And act upon.
Act upon, yeah.
So whether it's ancient myths or Shakespearean tragedies,
Right.
these stories are basically like cautionary tales.
They are warning.
about the power of belief.
Be careful what you believe in.
Yeah, because it might just come true.
Because it might just come true.
So we've gone from ancient myths
Right.
to Shakespearean tragedies.
Yeah.
And it seems like this concept of self-fulfilling prophecies just keeps popping up.
It's a timeless theme.
It's a universal theme.
That speaks to something fundamental about the human experience.
I agree. Okay, so let's take a breath
Okay.
and recap what we've learned so far.
All right.
We started with the basic definition.
Right.
A self-fulfilling prophecy is basically a prediction
Yeah.
that comes true
Yeah.
because people act in ways that align with the prediction,
Exactly.
making it a reality.
Like a feedback loop.
Yeah. And then we explored the Thomas theorem,
Right.
which emphasizes that our perception of reality shapes our actions and ultimately the outcomes we experience.
Our beliefs shape our reality.
And we saw how Robert K. Merton coined the term
Yeah.
self-fulfilling prophecy
Good old Merton.
and applied it to everything from bank runs to social dynamics.
It's a versatile concept.
It is.
Applies to so many different areas of life.
We even dove into the Pygmalion Effect.
Yeah.
And how our expectations, especially in settings like education, can have a profound impact on others.
Yeah. Especially on young people.
Yeah. And we also explored some real-world examples from the chilling effect of fear on older adults to the really troubling impact of prejudice on marginalized groups.
Some really powerful examples.
Yeah. And then we just took this fascinating journey
We did.
through literature and film.
Yeah.
And we saw how self-fulfilling prophecies have fueled countless stories.
Yeah. They're all over the place.
From ancient Greek myths to modern sci-fi blockbusters.
It's a popular theme.
It's a wild ride.
It is.
But before we wrap things up,
Okay.
I have one final question
All right, hit me with it.
for our listeners. Now that you've taken this deep dive with us into the world of self-fulfilling prophecies,
Yeah.
how do you see them playing out in your own life?
Oh, that's a great question.
Like, are there any beliefs or expectations that you hold
Yeah.
that might be shaping your reality?
Right.
Maybe even like holding you back
Yeah. Are you self-sabotaging without even realizing it?
from what you want to achieve?
It's a tough question to ask yourself, but it's an important one.
It is. And even more importantly, now that you're aware of this phenomenon,
Yeah.
how can you use this knowledge to your advantage?
Right. It's not just about avoiding those negative prophecies.
Right.
But it's also about consciously creating positive ones.
Yeah, if our beliefs are so powerful, why not choose beliefs that empower us,
Exactly.
that help us become the best versions of ourselves?
I love that it's about shifting our focus from what if I fail to what if I succeed.
Yeah.
Imagine the possibilities if we all just started believing in ourselves a little bit more.
And believing in each other.
And believing in each other, yeah.
This whole conversation has been a serious mind opener.
It has.
It's a little unsettling to realize just how much our beliefs shape our reality.
Yeah, it can be a little scary.
But it's also incredibly empowering.
It is empowering because it means we have more control than we think.
We do. We have more agency than we often give ourselves credit for.
Absolutely.
So it all starts with awareness, right?
Awareness is key.
Once we can see how these prophecies are operating in our lives,
Yeah.
we can start to make conscious choices
Right.
about the beliefs that we want to embrace.
We can choose our beliefs.
Yeah, we can challenge the negative ones, nurture the positive ones,
Exactly.
and ultimately create a reality that's more aligned with our deepest desires.
That's the goal.
It is. This has been such a fascinating deep dive.
It has been a pleasure.
I'm sure our listeners are buzzing with all sorts of thoughts and questions right now.
I hope so.
If you want to keep exploring these ideas, be sure to check out Trending Echo.
Yeah, we've got tons of great content over there.
We've got tons of content that will make you think, question, and maybe even see the world in a whole new light.
And don't forget to subscribe and share.
Yeah, we're constantly adding new deep dives into all sorts of fascinating topics you won't want to miss out.
Definitely hit that subscribe button.
Until next time, keep those minds open and those beliefs positive. You never know what amazing things you might create.
I love that. So true.